RST Clothing Golden Era Superbikes. If you cast your mind back 20 or so years, back to the days of Foggy versus Russell, etc. Well, these bikes are back out on circuit, and the Golden Era Superbike class new for 2012. We just saw on pole there, championship leader Lee Reevely. There's been no stopping him so far. Second on the grid on the Kawasaki, Josh Daley, 88. Third on the grid, it's a welcome back to Thundersport GB for number 34, Chris Matthews on the S-Rad Suzuki. And fourth place, Angelo De Rosa, the rider from Wrexham that we saw in GP1 for a number of years. He's out there on a Yamaha YZF 750, and what a pretty picture it is. It's a much healthier looking grid today for the RST Clothing Golden Era Superbikes, and into turn one there at 3 abreast as they went through. But Lee Reevely has been, as I mentioned, irrepressible at the front of the Thundersport GB Championship so far. No one's even been able to come close to him. As usual, there's a good start from number 13. Richard Blunt, he always gets away from the line relatively well. And a number of great bikes going through there, like the old Duckham's colours going through, I believe it was. And there's Josh Daley, number 88, around the outside and Island Bend and into Shell Oils. Really powering that Kawasaki through there. Here comes the grunt though of that, number 77, Aprilia. Downhill attempt to move into Britain chicane. As I mentioned in race 1 in the GP1, it's very tight through there, and if you were to try and go up the inside, the other riders just wouldn't see you and there'd be carnage. Think back to BSB and Josh Brooks a few years ago, and look what happened in that race. A bit further back then, there's John Dieterman on the Suzuki 500. Oh, and that's Richard Blunt, who was up in the top 3 earlier on. He's gone grass tracking. He does rejoin, but a lot further back. He's probably down in about 12th or 13th place now, but that's not good news for Richard Blunt. And look at this lead that these two are getting already. Number 88, Josh Daley, young rider from Wigan, who started out in Thundersport GB day 1 when it was first introduced. Out there on Kawasaki, leading Lee Reevely. Third place is John Dieterman, and then Chris Matthews on the Suzuki S-Rad, sporting his familiar, and of course Kevin Schwantz's familiar, number 34 on the Suzuki there. Josh Daley goes through and into Old Hall Corner, down through the Avenue and into Cascades, one of the better corners on the British calendar. Cascades, a lovely long sweeping left-hander, and you can just wind on the power. And there's that dark green, wonderful looking Yamaha YZF 750 there of Angelo De Rosa's. He's up into the top 4 or 5. Angelo, I should just point out, a very handy rider here at Oulton Park. We first bumped into him 3 or 4 years ago here. A lovely guy in the paddock, always got a smile on his face. Very competitive. He didn't have the best of years last year at Thundersport GB in the GP1 class, but certainly out there having some fun in the Golden Era Superbikes. It's Josh Daley that leads. Josh, a rider still learning his trade, really. Chattering front end as he heads into Hizzy chicane. And Lee Reevely just happy to sit there at the moment. Josh Daley doesn't pose a threat to him in the championship. Reevely's got something like a 140-point lead already, as we just see there. Number 58, Brian Spreadborough on the Aprilia going through. He's just up inside the points at the moment, and here comes Lee Reevely. Well, pretty much everything I've just said, forget it, because he wants the win. He's having a look up the inside. Just in the background there in 3rd place, the man, or the Welshman that lives in Wrexham, Angelo De Rosa. The Italian name, it's a long story, folks. He's in 3rd place, and Lee Reevely, every time they get onto a straight, he seems to have the better of Josh Daley, but Josh is hanging him out to dry, under braking and through the corners, and the power of that Aprilia coming to the front, and that was so close there. Lee Reevely almost wiping the front end off Josh Daley's Kawasaki, but Josh not afraid at all. Straight up the inside again into Cascades, and as they make their way up into Island Bend, the power of that Aprilia is there again, but around the outside, that is big and brave from Josh Daley. Let me tell you, Island Bend, if you've ever been around there on a bike, is seriously quick. Well, Josh Daley learned his trade, of course, in the Aprilia Super Teams, but this is fantastic from the youngster from Wigan, number 88, Pop Sport Racing, of course, and here with his family, regular and loyal to Thundersport GB. Lee Reevely himself, he's a multi-champion in Thundersport GB, sponsored by E2E Solutions, and he just has the advantage again as they head into Pizzi chicane, and this is, I can tell you already, even though we're only in the early stages, without a shadow of a doubt, the best race that we've had in RST Clothing Golden Era Superbike so far. There's Richard Blunt going through, number 13. That's number 67, Matt Wildy, on the Triumph 955. A quick update, of course, from a rider that can't be with us, Keith Smith. Smithy, Mr. Potato Head, as Lee Reevely pulls away at the front there. What a lead he's got. Josh Daley must have made a mistake somewhere out on circuit, but Keith Smith had a bit of an accident over in Mexico. I'm pleased to say that he is alive and well. He's a bit worse for wear, though. I don't think we're likely to see him at Snetterton next round. 26 stitches in his head, 10 in his elbow, broken cheekbone, dislocated and broken shoulder in 3 places, broken ribs, broken neck in 2 places, smashed the disc to pieces. Had one removed and a plastic one put in, vertebrae screwed. It is not brilliant for Keith Smith at the moment, but he said he'll try and get back on a bike in a couple of weeks' time for Snetterton. We'll hopefully see him in and around the paddock, and maybe we'll get Sid to catch an interview with him. Last lap flag out in the RST Golden Era Superbikes, and Lee Reevely here has an unassailable lead, and it looks as though that Angelo De Rosa's going to pinch second place off Josh Daley and comfortably move up and get himself 20 points, and that'll give him a good chance of moving into the top 10 of the championship if he can keep that up all weekend. Chris Matthews is just outside the podium places in 4th, with John Dieterman 5th. Paul Ashton on the Honda 750 is in 6th place, number 46 ahead of Chris Norris. Richard Blunt, Nick Williamson and Jason Dixon makes up the top 10. There's Angelo De Rosa on the dark green Yamaha. And just heading over the hilltop, that is number 2, Chris Norris, a rider that we're used to seeing. That's not the right route, I should just add, as he goes through Knickerbrook. He takes the runoff, but a rider we saw in Super Twins and Sound of Thunder back at the opening of Fun Sport a few years ago. But around the final corner, here he comes. Well, I've lost count of how many wins this is, but across the line, Dave prepares the checkered flag, and Lee Reevely wins at Oulton Park. It's a good result for Angelo De Rosa. Started 4th on the grid, takes 2nd, and Josh Daley there, hats off, sir. 3rd place ahead of Chris Matthews on the Suzuki. Welcome back, Chris. John Dieterman collected 5th, and Paul Ashton was confirmed in 6th spot. And on the podium, there you see a mixture of ages. Lee in the middle with Angelo to the left and Josh to the right. Standings then, well, look at that lead for Lee Reevely ahead of Richard Blunt, who moves into 2nd, Nick Williamson 3rd, Rob Wilson, Jason Dixon and Josh Daley.
RST Motorcycle Clothing, Golden Era Superbikes, 3rd place, Josh Daley. Josh, you've got to be happy with that.
Yeah, it's a great achievement to be doing that on a 400, especially when I did a 1:48.2, I think it was. So yeah, happy over the moon with it.
Yeah, that is a very, very good time, to be fair. Who do you want to thank, Josh?
Yeah, I'd like to thank MTC Exhausts, PRF Engineering, 151's Compression Tops, my dad Carl and Paul Rennie for getting the 400 singing this weekend.
All I can say is everybody better watch out when you get on a 600.
Yeah, I don't want to be too big-headed about it.
Well done, mate.